Confederation of African Football on Saturday ruled in favor of Nigeria over Libya following a recent dispute in the ongoing 2025 African Cup qualifiers. Now, the continental body found that Libya had deliberately caused the problems with the intention of gaining undue advantage over Nigeria, and besides the forfeiture of the points, imposed a fine of $50,000 on the North Africans, as well as ruled out any chance of appeal. Consequently, the Super Eagles of Nigeria were awarded 3 points and 3 goals. Arise Sports correspondent Aaron Akerejola joins us now to discuss this landmark verdict by Africa's football governing body and the potential political and sporting implications of it, not just for between the relationships of Nigeria and Libya, but for the rest of the continent. So good morning, Aaron. Nice to have you here with us.
It's a very good morning to you. Good morning to the ladies. Good morning to you, Steve, in the house today. Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to Steve and his Angels show this lovely Sunday. Now, it's a landmark decision, but it has had huge consequences for Nigeria and Libya when it comes to international relations. So beyond just sports, what do you think that the outcome of this decision would be? And do you think that it's prohibitive enough to prevent such from happening further down the line, between other African nations?
So, of course, in law, usually there's something called judicial precedent. So this is a huge verdict in favor of Nigeria against Libya, because not just Libya, the North Africans have got dirty games they play when it comes to football and reception. And it's unfortunate that for years we've seen the African body literally turn a blind eye to several of these antics at the detriment of visiting teams. But right now, every visiting team knows what to expect, because they know that when you go by the AFCON regulation, which the disciplinary committee stated, that in Article 31 that talks about reception, which was violated because the team were not properly received. They were kept at the airport for almost 24 hours. When it talks about transportation in Article 31, subsection 2, and when it talks also about other things in subsection 3, you find out that these things have always been enshrined in the AFCON regulations, and they were not enforced, or no one went out to test these laws and these regulations. And I'm happy that the disciplinary committee have also evoked Article 82, and the fact that sportsmanship must be utmost in your dealing with visiting teams. And also Article 151, which talks about security, that you must provide adequate security and also aid the visiting team and their contingents the opportunity to stay in the country and also be safe in that particular country. So when you put all that into context, those laws were tested, and right now we're beginning to see something that will shape or probably shift the tectonic plates of reception when it comes to African football. And the North Africans, like Morocco, Egypt, and several others that have spoken in favor of Libya, will sit up and take notice, because from now onwards, especially the Anglophones, will start evoking some of these laws. And when the North African knows that doing all these dirty tricks will cost you more than it will actually pay you, they would have to act. They will probably simmer a little bit. It is good. Whether it now works in favor or against Patrice Motsepe, who is from the Anglophone and who is seeking re-election, because some few days ago he said that he wants to throw his hat into the ring again for another term. Whether this works against him, I do not know. But this is good for football, I must say, because it garnered global attention and the world was watching to see what will happen. And they've done the right thing, talking about the disciplinary committee.
All right, Aaron. Okay, you say this is good for football. A lot of people say that this is good for Nigeria because we are benefiting. But then two things. Will you say, you've quoted Article 31, 82, 182 and all that. Will you say that this is fair to Libya? Or is this like a sledgehammer on the Libyan Football Federation for what happened, when our boys were denied, a fair treatment? People were expecting that what will happen is that we will play the game on a neutral ground. At what point did CAF interpret those provisions for ethics and everything to the letter to now dash us, 3 points and 3 goals. And then secondly, I recall when you say that, North Africans should take a listen and see what's going on. But then people will make reference to even the last AFCON in Abidjan, in Côte d'Ivoire, that there were instances when the host country was very hostile to other teams, and at a point even to Nigeria, in terms of how people were gain access into the stadium and things like that. Why will it be because there was no complaint? Why weren't those provisions of the rules by CAF applied in such an instance?
All right, Steve, I'm looking at it closely. Shenanigans like this, evoking the dark arts to try to frustrate visiting teams, is nothing new to Africa or football. We've seen that play out time and time again. We've had issues in European football whereby the bosses of visiting teams were attacked. The fans were intimidated, even killed. The players themselves found themselves in a jam, literally, before getting to the African Cup of Nations. Now, you mentioned AFCON, for example. The story that was never told about the finals of that AFCON, and that was downplayed by all that happened, was that the Super Eagles didn't even get to the venue of the match until 4 hours. My cameraman is shaking his head because we are there. They got into the venue 4 hours late, and no one spoke about that.
As a result of what?
As a result of probably shenanigans and trying to frustrate the visiting team. The home team, which were the hosts, were playing against a bigwig in Africa, and they were trying to use everything humanly possible. Of course, the fans complained about intimidation in the stadium, and people were attacked in the stadium. But all that was downplayed because it was not done at a large scale. And like Will Smith said, he said racism has always been existing. The only thing is that right now it is being televised, and that is why it's looking like some things are just coming to the fore. The truth is this: usually people do these things, and there's a measure in which you can actually push some of these antics. As soon as it gets televised and it is documented, you are almost shooting yourself in the foot. It was glaring for the entire world to see what was happening when they landed at the Al Harab airport and were kept there for 15, 16 hours. Videos showed that they were literally locking the airport and the doors of the airport and barring people to exit to go and get food, water. That is the low of lows. You shouldn't do that. And hence, they've been slapped with this huge fine.
Yeah, but Aaron, how does this ruling affect Nigeria's position in the Nations Cup qualifiers? Does it provide a significant boost in our qualification hopes? And I also want to know how the Nigerian football community has reacted to this ruling, what it means for the morale and the reputation of the Super Eagles going forward. And lastly, although Libya has been barred from appealing, have there been any official statements or responses from the Libyan Football Federation regarding the ruling and its implications?
Of course, Libya would always reject this particular ruling, but for the Super Eagles, it puts them in a firm position to play at the AFCON 2025 in Morocco next year. That's what it means. Because before this game, they were topping Group A with a game less with 7 points. But thanks to this particular ruling, Nigeria now has 10 points. And it's looking like a draw in any of their next set of fixtures will just cement a spot for AFCON 2025. So at the moment, the Super Eagles will be heaving a sigh of relief because they know that they can now focus and try to get their World Cup qualification campaign back on track. That is the exciting news about this. This has been greeted with a lot of relief and with a lot of applause because CAF
assisted relief.
CAF for a long time has been dominated by the Francophones and the Arab-speaking nations, or those that say they are from the Arab side of the divide. When you look at the map, the Anglophones are beginning to stand up and take notice. And I say this and I say this again. If we had a Francophone president, probably this would have been different. Probably. But right now that we have an Anglophone president, and this is an Anglophone country, and they also know that we have someone from an Anglophone extraction on the board of CAF and also FIFA, they know that they have to tread with caution because this has become a global issue. The biggest media houses in the world covered this particular issue. Yeah. So they knew that they had to tread with caution.
And I really appreciate this breakdown, like this post-colonial African soccer football wars, the trans-Saharan battles, like continue from the desert to the field, and we'll see what's going to happen with CAF. But I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are breathing a sigh of relief because we do want to go to that World Cup.